Today, we're reviewing the F1 season for 2019. This is Triple Crown Racing. Let's get into it. The Formula 1 season for 2019 is over. Normally I'd turn off the TV after Abu Dhabi and sort of forget about Formula 1 for the winter break, or summer break if you're like me and live in Australia. But no, I've turned into one of those guys that make memes like, Day 7 without F1, I'm trapped in my car because I cornered at 200 miles an hour and went flying off a cliff. And well, there's a few reasons for that which will be covered in this video. The grand scale of the championship this year was extremely boring and had the most predictable possible ending. This was due to Mercedes turning up on the grid with a rocket ship while everyone else turned up with a Renault Twingo. Except for Williams, they turned up with a wheelbarrow, but I think we've said enough about them. However, the races from around the mid-season onwards have been amazing. I know I discussed this in the mid-season review, but Hockenheim was incredible. In fact, most of the European rounds were also incredible. However, since then, Brazil happened. Brazil was another reminder that when things in Formula 1 go so wonderfully awry, the midfield teams can be right there with the front runners. My point is, this year, the racing has been close, exciting, and unpredictable, and that's exactly what Formula 1 should be. Yes, the championship itself was boring, but the races certainly weren't, and that's okay with me. For the first time, maybe ever, I actually can't wait for another season of Grand Prix racing. I am genuinely excited about Formula 1 again, and that's incredible. With that, let's get on to some other discussion points. 2019 wasn't kind to Pierre Gasly. He was uncompetitive in one of the best cars on the grid and was dropped down to Toro Rosso. This all came after a very strong 2018 season spent with the Red Bull Junior squad. However, for some strange reason, Gasly is actually faster in a Toro Rosso than he is in a Red Bull. In the Brazilian Grand Prix, he was able to pick up a podium due to a crazy safety car restart late in the race. If 2019 wasn't kind to Gasly, the entire decade wasn't kind to McLaren. McLaren is basically a perfect representation of the future hasn't been kind to you meme. We are talking about a team that has won 182 races, taken 8 Constructors' Championships and 12 Drivers' titles, yet they haven't won a race in 7 years. For the first time since 2014, McLaren picked up a podium in Brazil with Carlos Sainz Jr. My point is, it looks like the midfield teams are starting to actually be able to compete for higher placing. Not consistently, but definitely more than we've seen in the past few years. It also looks like McLaren are making a bit of a comeback after years of struggling. I actually think that might be in part due to the drivers they've hired. Not for the reason you might think though. Carlos Sainz Jr. and Lando Norris are incredibly talented drivers. I don't think anyone will dispute that. But I actually think they've created a better climate at the team. They're both young drivers that seem like they're just happy to be there. No disrespect to Fernando Alonso, but I think his constant complaining was actually hindering the team. I think the only way is up for McLaren, and it's great seeing them consistently in the top 10 now. Pierre Gasly was also able to prove that he is a talented driver and not necessarily an F1 bust. We probably won't see him in a Red Bull again, but I think he's a pretty good shoe who could definitely score a few more podiums with another team. Lewis Hamilton is now a 6-time Formula One world champion. He is now only one world title away from Michael Schumacher. Some of you may argue that is simply down to his equipment, and I will say that is partially true. The Mercedes cars, probably less so now, but even still, are the fastest on the grid. Would Hamilton have been as successful over the past few years had it not been for his car? Maybe not. Is he everyone's favorite driver? No. Do I personally like him that much? Not really. Regardless, just by watching a lap of his, just by seeing how fast he is clearly one of, if not the single fastest driver in the field, and it is his talent that has produced each and every one of these world championships. The question is, can he win another one in 2020? Some may predict that 2020 will be the year of Valtteri Bottas, but while he wins the occasional race, I think at least for now, he's destined to play second fiddle. I think the answer to this particular question is yes, but it certainly won't be easy. I think it took a while for Ferrari to work their car out this season. Same with Red Bull for that matter. If they can hit the ground running next season, both Hamilton and Mercedes' life could get a lot more difficult. But if it's down to talent, 2020 could probably shift a 7th title for Lewis. I don't think anyone will actually disagree with me on this one, but this year's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was horrendously boring, and it's shown me that it really shouldn't be the finale. Yes, Abu Dhabi is a pretty cool track. The spectacle of racing at night, the boats and the cool buildings make it seem pretty special, but the reality is, the racing isn't good. The finale was a complete anticlimax, especially after Brazil. I don't think the track should be removed from the calendar, but maybe put at a different point in the season. If that's not possible, just cut it from the championship, please. So what did I think of this season? Well, it was probably the most enjoyable I've seen to date. The racing was good after the midpoint of the season, and yeah, while there were a few Silver Arrow shows, it wasn't always about them. Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc showed that they were very prominent drivers this season. I think 2019 shows that Formula One is in a pretty good place going into the new decade. It's certainly in a better place now than it was at the beginning of the decade. So I guess it's given me a reason to actually miss Formula One over the break. But still, nobody cares what you did today without F1. Thank you so much to @FinnickArrow on Instagram for helping me out with this video. He makes excellent graphics on Instagram, and it's definitely worth checking him out. Link in the description. That's gonna do it from me. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.